Hello, this is Greg Smalley on Pod 366, a weird movies podcast, joined today, as I often am, by Giles Edwards, who's providing jazz hands to spice things up. Uh, it is getting into Halloweeny season. We do not have a lot of horrific horror movies to discuss this week. We do have some things. Obviously, there is no guest on this week. Do have some guests lined up for the future, but nothing to announce right now. So we are just going to go through the week's smorgasbord of releases, and there they are, Giles. You can see those.
I can see them.
All right, let me remove them one by one until we get to what we're going to start with. And so this will be, why don't you simply describe this image?
Sure,
People who can't see.
uh, this is a black and white still from a movie. Illumination coming from, I'm gonna say, the left-hand side, shining on the primary character here in this shot is a young Japanese woman, shoulder-length hair, wearing a traditional style garb, I'm gonna guess. A refinement from the Edo period, considering my vague recollection of that movie, which I reviewed some time ago. And she is looking down, perhaps a bit wistfully, at a reclining figure in front of her, which I believe is a gentleman in a suit who is holding something up to his face as he lies down. And on his chest, it might be a bunch of, I don't know, a few small flowers there, perhaps, that are brightly illuminated by whatever the limited light source is for this particular scene.
Looks like he might be holding glasses.
Yeah, those are probably glasses. Yeah, so his eyes are closed, I believe, and is doubtless thinking about something, possibly imagining this figure that is resting just above his head.
Okay, and what is it from?
That is from, let me check my windows here. That is from To Sleep So As to Dream from 1986, directed by Kaizo Hayashi.
Which is a movie you reviewed.
Yeah.
And the reason we're doing this is a starting off with one that's it's a kind of slim week in releases. This is something that you can only see if you're in New York City because it's part of a retrospective of a the films of, probably will mispronounce, Kaizo Hayashi. It's titled So As to Dream, The Eternal Mysteries of Kaizo Hayashi. I think this picture we have here up is of uh, To Sleep So As to Dream itself, which is his most famous movie and the only one we've reviewed. What do you recall from To Sleep So As to Dream?
Well, I did glance over my review from almost 2 years ago now. It's a wonderful, wonderful movie that is very much a homage to Japan's almost entire cinematic tradition. It is a fairly dialogue-free film done kind of silent movie style, but with ambient effects showing up in it. You know, you'll hear knocks on doors, you'll hear various clicks. There's thumps of guns going on because there's a bit of hard-boiled detective stuff happening here. And there's also prominently featured a Benshi who provides pretty much all the spoken
Hmm.
um, words in here, although it is kind of cute. There are a couple audio recordings from the gang of riddle-loving thieves, kidnappers who have nabbed the daughter of a famous actress within the movie, and their records are the only other time you ever hear anyone speaking is through the playback of those recordings. So it's very It's a very playful movie. It's a fun movie. It's delightfully lit, as evidenced by this screen still here. And I know I recommended it not just in general, but also for the Apocrypha.
Yes, because it is a weird movie.
Yes.
Okay. Um, we will go through the other films in this series, none of which, of course, we've seen, and none of which you will be able to easily catch. However, they all seem interesting, and they all seem like ones we might want to try to track down.
Yeah.
Let me see if I can do a different share and get to that Japan Society, who is hosting this retrospective, which runs October 11th to October 19th, I believe.
Yeah.
I don't want to get those dates wrong. Let's see if I can share the Japan. Yes, here's the Japan Society website. You can see it, Giles.
Oh, yep.
So the next of the, I believe there are five movies in this series. Next one is called Circus Boys. It sounds kind of the same in the sense that they it looks like another silent type of movie, also black and white. The description says, adhering to a pre-cinematic age of dream making, Hayashi's tribute to the bygone age of traveling circus troupes and theatrical showmanship erupts into tragedy and hardship as two brothers follow their dreams under the twilight gleam of a crescent moon, which sounds kind of like an old style silent melodrama.
Yeah.
I'm not sure if this one is uh, I just getting the sense that it's stylistically similar to So As to Dream, uh, but there's nothing in the description, I guess, that would lead you to believe that than that you can tell that this is also a black and white film with strong expressionist style lighting and
Oh, and actually, from that, I can look at it. It looks like that still that you showed me is not, in fact, from what I thought it was, because it shows up on the Circus Boys thing, but then again, it might just be their go-to shot
that is their go-to
overall.
shot.
Oh, okay, never mind
That's
then.
this that's the image they're using for the whole.
Okay, very good.
See,
Okay,
there it is again.
I got you. Yeah, so
That's
very
their
good.
uh, Kaizo Hayashi Kaizo Hayashi image. Um, so okay, there's Circus Boys set in the circus world, also um, black and white expressionistic. Then there is a trilogy of films that he did, uh, all starring a character called Maiku Hama, which they say is a play on Mike Hammer, who is sort of a hard-boiled American detective, but transplanted into a Japanese milieu where it gets stylistically mixed up with like Japanese B movies of the 60s. So it starts with The Most Terrible Time in My Life, which is also a black and white film, and which Mayuka, uh, let's just call him Hama time, uh, gets embroiled in the disappearance of a Taiwanese immigrant's brother, getting caught in the crosshairs of a gang war. The next film in the series is called The Stairway to the Distant Past, and now he goes into color. This one is a new 4K restoration, and it's the premiere of the restoration. And in this one, it's in vibrant, full-blown color. Uh, the sequel finds a man in white reigning over the embattled riverfront of Yokohama, while Mayuku's mother returns after years of abandonment. And the third one is called The Trap, also 4K restoration premiere, described as the ominous final chapter in the Mayuku Hama series, straddles the line of psychological horror as a series of drug-fueled murders instill fear in Yokohama. A disquieting serial killer threatens all that is dear to Mayuku in this eerie finale.
And yeah, seeing as all three are now 4K, I'm wondering if we'll have the opportunity in the near future to snap up that trilogy as one delicious whole.
Right. And for the second two, they speak for the programmer speaks for Stairway to the Distant Past of an eerie final act, a nightmarish tableau, vivant of painted faces and silent murmurs.
Oh, I haven't seen a good tableau vivant in a while.
Not since Hypothesis of the Stolen Painting. And the trap describes the ending as the harrowing finale spins a hallucinatory descent into darkness as Mayuku finds himself assailed by a frightening opponent deep within the bowels of the city.
Oh, sounds awesome.
So, yeah, those could all be very stylish and very interesting, and certainly a director who's been weird in the past is indebted to silent era movies and film noir, and seems very interesting. And let's hope that these restorations are a harbinger of them getting physical media releases so that we can actually track down and see these movies.
Yeah.
But let me go back to our major movie releases. This here's something that's going to be much easier for people to see.
Yeah.
Okay, so Claire Giles, you care to describe the poster here?
Yeah, well, for a certain generation, this is one of the most famous posters that you might stumble across. It is a big full moon. In fact, the moon, I'd say, takes up most of the top half of the screen in the background there. In the foreground, we have some sort of foothill angled, rolling little bits of land leading up to a stone fence with a wrought iron top, and it's littered with carved and illuminated pumpkins, and dominating the right-hand side, elevating a pair of characters to the spotlight of this full moon, is a tendrilled hillock that many of you will know or guess can unravel to allow a nice moment of descent for the two figures who are standing in the brightness of that moon. One of them is a feminine form in a raggedy dress and flowing locks of hair, and the other is a very tall, gaunt, thin gentleman in a, well, I'll say heavily stylized Edwardian funereal garb.
Then you might even say skeletal,
I would go so far as to describe this as, yes, as a skeletal gentleman.
and they're over a field of lit Janko lanterns,
I think they look all right, Greg.
or
What's
jack
that?
o' lanterns.
There.
Um, and it is, of course, Disney's Tim Burton's The Nightmare Before Christmas by Henry Selick. Never gets mentioned despite having made the movie. He never gets his name associated with it, poor guy.
No.
Um, Tim Burton produced and kind of handled the promotion, we should say. Tim Burton was very hot at the time.
Yeah.
Um,
And it's based on a story poem of his and drawings from him. So definitely his name is deserves to be up there. But then again, so does Henry Selick's.
yeah, Selick just kind of got the shaft here. But anyway, it's returning to theaters October 11th, and it will be pretty much everywhere because it's released by Disney. There is no single website where you can go to find where it's playing near you. Um, You'd have to go, to AMC or to Cinemark or to Regal Cinemas or to Showcase Cinemas and look there. But chances are it's going to be everywhere you are. Um, so Giles, your thoughts about The Nightmare Before Christmas?
No, I saw it in theaters on its first run. And anything that's basically, I don't know, it plays kind of like a Danny Elfman concept album since it is a musical and
Mhm.
most of the exchanges are in song form, all the plots moved forward via song. And of course, the technical expertise for this was kind of set a high benchmark for everything to follow. If I remember the ambient hype about its production correctly. I've seen it actually in this past year myself on whatever the Super Duper K Blu-ray release that came out, which captured everything beautifully, although it did indicate that if they tweak it to an even higher resolution, you're going to start to see the process behind the illusion there. Because
With
even at the
people's
4K, I
hands.
was able to sort of, see a bit more than I kind of wanted to for claymation, but still, very, very worthwhile checking out, and doubtless would look amazing on the big screen, and a great little movie to maybe take some young people, children, nephews, nieces, what have you, to perhaps help tilt them toward odd cinema, even though it's, not neither canon nor apocrypha.
Yeah, it's offbeat and certainly in the level. It's got a lot of sort of scary imagery. We should mention that on October 1st, I believe, Ken Page, who was the voice of the main villain Oogie Boogie, died.
Oh,
So
yeah, Oogie Boogie, great villain, fantastic, one of my favorite villains.
one of your favorite villains, yes. And that's a sad note. And 10 days later, the movie gets re-released. So think about Ken if you go see it. Yeah, I agree with Giles. Good movie to take a kid to uh, who might have an interest in stranger and scarier forms of cinema. And I think it's something that's going to hold up well today. I don't think it's going to appear dated. It's very timeless.
Yeah.
Okay. A movie that is maybe somewhere in theaters, but probably more likely just find it on VOD. Our one real new release of the week to talk about indie film. Giles, the still, if you would describe.
Now, this still is mostly bathtub, shot not quite three-quarter view, almost head on. And this is a bathtub and what looks like is probably a very nice bathroom, judging from the stone-looking tiling in the background. But the main thing, I guess, about this is in this tub, we see the head of a woman who I'm going to guess is in her early to mid 30s, a brunette. Uh, she's obviously wet, looks a bit clammy, which, understandable being in a bathtub and all, and definitely does not seem at all well. She's staring into the upper, somewhere on the ceiling of this bathroom is either something very distracting or just happens to be where her eyes landed while she's contemplating, I don't know, some kind of unpleasantness that she is enduring at this time.
Perhaps, perhaps. I will
Or
say
maybe not enduring. The trailer doesn't clarify.
trailer is pretty unrevealing. I will say probably chose this shot because of the lighting and the way the edge of the bathtub kind of bleeds into
Yeah,
the
so some
woman's
hot water in
neck.
there, I'm
So
guessing.
it looks like they're kind of merging. So it's
Yeah.
sort of a mundane shot, except for that the fact that the as I say, the lighting at that borderline. It seems to have them merging together. Um, and it's glowing with kind of a ghostly glow.
Okay,
So
yeah,
it's
looking at this again, yeah, it looks like she's up to her neck in water in the tub because you can sort of make the water line from
Mhm.
the blur there. So, hot tub or hot bath water,
uh,
distressed woman.
steam maybe coming up.
Yeah.
Um, so it's called The Unraveling, and as we say, the trailer, which we will link, isn't very super helpful. We do have, the basic premise is a woman has some sort of accident, may have brain damage, and then wakes up believing that she has switched into an alternate dimension. And from this alternate dimension, she can receive phone calls from her husband, who is back in her original pre accident dimension. Of course,
Yep.
it all could be a hallucination, which is the entire point. Um, and it's basically you're going to find it on VOD. It says it's in cinema somewhere, but I couldn't locate where. Giles, what did you think?
I think, I guess, as with everything in the universe, there's a non-zero chance this might be weird. Better chance that it'll be an interesting thriller. But it looks like it premiered, judging from this thing, it premiered slightly just over a year ago at the Nashville Film Festival and is only now leaking into uh, wider availability. So, trailer suggested that the people who made it know how to make a movie with shots and lighting and camera and acting. So, yeah.
Not a lot of money behind it, obviously, and the acting seemed pretty good, but there's no special effects or great locations or anything like that to see.
Yeah.
Do you think she's crazy or is she really in an alternate dimension?
Now, I guess if I were to be my optimistic self and judging from the facts as presented on the trailer, I'm inclined to give her the benefit of the doubt and to suggest that she is actually perceiving more than the rest of us in a way that exists as opposed to she's imagining it. But
Hopefully, there's a unique and cool twist to it. It's
those
called
are
The Unraveling, though. You'll have to look it up on VOD or wait for our possible review of it when we will tell you whether you should or shouldn't look it up. Here's something I think that you should get on Blu-ray, although not everybody has agreed with me. Not all of our guests. We had a guest, Michael Reich, did not like this movie at all, despite being a Yorgos Lanthimos fan. But I just put up the back page or the back cover of the Blu-ray. Giles, you want to describe? People know what we're talking about probably, but
okay. Well, this has been divided into frames before. I think even in my descriptions, about 60% of this is text concerning the plot, bonus features, various credits, and not provisos, but those things that corporate what's it say to debunk their own claims. But on the top, we have taking up the entire width of the Blu-ray, a sort of ochre orange tone hued shot of three people on a couch, a young brunette, I'm going to guess in her mid to late 20s, a slightly older fellow, ginger, I'm going to say, with well done slicked back coiffed hair and mustache, looking down a bit despondently, and nestled even close to him on his left side as the woman is on his right side is an even older guy who's a bit gaunt and a face that is very well known, certainly to us. This face returns in a second image just below on the left-hand side, looking a bit smilier and a bit more crazily haired as he's talking to someone who I don't know, also looks like a ginger, but has sufficiently short hair that I don't want to say it's the same one as the fellow on the top, though it could be.
it could
And
well be.
hand around the shoulder, reassuring kind of way. And the final image is in front of a motel, more green tone overall, with a young woman with about neck length hair looking up at a fella in a rather, I don't know, subdued and striking green shirt, who seems to have a generic 80s style whoosh thing going on, full bodied, full volume hair on that guy. And they are having some sort of encounter outside of, I don't know, I guess one of the better looking motels I've seen in a movie. But then again, I see a lot of movies that if there are motels, usually they're pretty crummy. So,
You watch a lot of movies with crummy motels, huh? That
well,
says a lot about
I keep
about movies.
volunteering for our very low budget
Uh,
forays. And if those have, if they're not in a house, they're going to be somewhere affordable or perhaps even, guerrilla filmmaking style. So it's often, yes, a seedier place of lodging.
so this is of course the Blu-ray for Kinds of Kindness,
Of
and
course.
of course, and we'll read some of the things. I'll just read you their synopsis. Uh, Kinds of Kindness is a triptych fable following a man without choice who tries to take control of his own life, true. A policeman who is alarmed that his wife was missing at sea has returned and seems a different person, true. And a woman determined to find a specific someone with a special ability who is destined to become a prodigious spiritual leader, true. All accurate descriptions that don't really give away much about how really truly absurd each of the scenarios is. Sort of an interesting thing. Well, I'll go with it has bonus features, which is a sort of making of featurette called It Takes All Kinds, The Vision of Kinds of Kindness, and there are deleted scenes. I believe I read there were two of them. Um, I was sort of interested in the design of the back cover because instead of having one picture from each of the stories, it looks to me like they have two from the third story and one from the first story and shows nothing from the second story, uh, which I don't know. I would have thought they'd just do one of each. The other thing is that Emma Stone is kind of the star and the most prominently featured character. Her and Jesse Plemons are about equal, and she only appears in one of the three stills. So they kind of gave Emma short shrift there. Um, so yeah, I'm guessing you haven't seen it yet, Giles.
No, I haven't. It's well, truth be told, it seemed kind of long when I read up on how the length of it. And also, I have generally mixed feelings about triptych or semi-anthologically styled movies. So I'll probably see it. I saw Beautiful Things or Unkind. Oh, not Beautiful Things. What was that?
Poor.
Poor Things. Yeah, that's it. Although many of them happen to be beautiful. Um, and Poor Things was great, and it was like I was like what 2 hours, 20 minutes, 2.5 hours, but very solid, lots of interesting things going on, and one story which I really really like in a movie. Um,
Well, this one, at least you could break it up into three different stories. And the first one, um, the I don't think it's a spoiler to say that Jesse Plemons works for Willem Dafoe, who exerts sort of a more firm influence over his everyday life than most employers do,
mm,
and decides to try to break free from that. Uh, so it's a sort of parable about freedom and rebellion. The second one is that sort of doppelganger story you've sort of heard before about the person who disappears, that comes back, and somebody believes that they're not the same person. and that paranoia there. And it gets pretty dark and also has one of the most surreal segments, which comes in at the end credits of those of that middle section. And then the third section is basically about these cultists searching for a prophet. Has a very ironic ending. And of course, there's about six people, Plemons and Stone and Willem Dafoe, Margaret Qualley, and a couple of others who appear in each of these in different roles. And they are all sort of in the same universe, you could make an argument for.
Hmm.
I recommend it.
I see that right
You could
here.
watch it, one night, one
That's true. I
story the
could
next
break this
night,
up
and one
into
story
pieces.
the next.
All right, all right. You've greatly improved its chances, Greg.
Okay. But Michael Reich didn't like it, so he thought it was boring.
Oh,
So here's another one that we've discussed many, many times, but it's brilliant. I couldn't take my eyes off it, said Stephen King. Describe this Blu-ray, if you will.
sure thing. We've got a nice, we'll say late 70s television style font with the title taking up the top third. In the deep background, it's pretty neat. There's rows of people, as it were, in a studio watching the on stage, what have you, and the spotlights mimic, I don't know, either cats or demonic eyes that flank the primary character standing front and center, a wonderfully sideburns, well-coiffed young actor who hopefully will continue to make it bigger and bigger in a good suit and a striped tie with a boldness that suggests this is normal for his era, but less so now. And he is looking at us and away from a seated figure who looks, shall we can't see her face, long flowing brown hair. She's obviously restrained and dressed kind of young looking, a sort of teenage schoolgirl-esque, clothing, skirt and blouse and what have you. And sort of, I'd go so far as to say that there aren't just sort of tendril things emanating from her, but an aura of menace.
Sort of a Linda Blair in The Exorcist thing going on there.
Yeah.
So, of course, it's Late Night with the Devil, um, which Giles reviewed, and you can describe it briefly if you like, Giles. I'll just mention few weeks back, they released a steel book with a bunch of, car fresheners and postcards and souvenirs of this. And here, this is the cheaper, regular, standard release for people who didn't need all the gewgaws and collectibles. But as for the movie itself,
Oh, I quite liked it. I saw it at Fantasia, which I believe was toward the end of its festival run. It was a late night Friday or Saturday, very enthusiastic horror crowd. It set up found footage, ostensibly from a broadcast, the final broadcast of a show called Night Owls with our host, Jack Delroy, played wonderfully, perfectly by David Dastmalchian and has the neat gimmick where, okay, so when we see it in color, we see it in classic TV frame format, or when it's live and on the air, and whenever they have commercial breaks, the screen widens and it becomes black and white, and we're given, sneak peeks of what's happening behind the scenes when a series of increasingly occult guests show up as this guy makes his one final bid on a Halloween night during Sweeps Week performance to renew his contract, which is on the line. And well, let's just say, being a found footage horror thing of a final broadcast, I don't believe that he got his show renewed, unfortunately.
well, it's not on right now, so
Yeah,
either, yeah, it still could have been canceled in 1984. So,
yeah. But
but
yes,
yeah,
very
no,
70s, whole lot of fun.
yeah. Well, I liked it too. I did not think it was exceptionally weird. I thought it was more of a normal
Hmm.
horror movie. but very much Halloween themed and very appropriate to the season right now. If you haven't seen it, it'd be a good time to look it up. Actually, play it on Halloween night, why don't you?
Hey, yeah.
So, one more movie. This is a movie I've actually seen but haven't written up. Giles, you want to describe the still?
All right. This is, it looks like 1.85 to 1 ratio with about with the right hand third taken up by the face of a middle-aged woman, I'd guess late 40s, brunette. Looks like she's gone through some things, but still handsome woman, her brown eyes gazing somewhere far to the right of our shoulders as we look at her looking away off at the screen. And about two-thirds of the frame from the left-hand side up to about the edge of her face is something out of focus, but it's various styles of red, a very feathery look to it. So I'm going to guess it's a wing. And superimposed on this wing is a day of the week, which also happens to be the title of the movie.
Tuesday, which is
Yep.
now on VOD, not on Blu-ray yet. And I'll give A24 some credit on this VOD release. Oftentimes, their first VOD release is overpriced to like, it'll be like $10 to rent it. And then they'll, once the Blu-ray releases, they drop the price down to the normal $5 or whatever. This time they're starting out at $5 to rent it. So good for them on that one. Don't know if it means anything about the marketability of the film or the prestige attached to it, but it is one you can go ahead and purchase right away and not have to worry about waiting for that price drop, although it still could drop $1 at some point. Anyway, the movie is, as I said, I saw it, did not review it, still considering if we can fit it in reviewing it because it is a little on the borderline of being weird.
Hmm.
Julia Louis-Dreyfus is a mother, her daughter, who inexplicably has a British accent and Julia doesn't, uh, not really inexplicably, but oddly, is dying of cancer. And she is visited, the girl who is dying of cancer is visited by Death, who happens to be a parrot who can change size a lot. And Julia Louis-Dreyfus does not appreciate the parrot when she gets to know it and sort of has an antagonistic relationship. And some it goes in some odd directions. I didn't think were entirely successful, but certainly were interesting enough to make it worth a look.
Uh, well, we have until we probably only have 10 seconds left.
We are going to say goodbye, Giles, and we have no guest to announce next week. So everybody stay weird. We'll be back next week.
Weird? Yeah, I guess that is the word for it. Weird.